Hey guys, Frank here with another episode of Modern Church Leader. Excited to talk to two guests today. It doesn't happen too often, but I have two awesome ladies on the show today. And I feel very awkward calling them their names, but it's Kenz and Mac. But I guess if you switch them, it gives you the whole name. So I got Mac and Kenz, both named Mackenzie. But guys, it's great to have you on the show today.
Yes, we're so excited to be here. I don't know if it's just the way I'm viewing this right now, but Frank, you are right in the middle of both Mac and I, and it just looks super hilarious. I love it.
I'm like, on my side, I'm on the left, and then there's Kenz and there's Mac.
Okay,
so I don't know.
What's it like for you, Mac?
And it's awesome because Frank is tan. We're looking a little pale kids. So I just love it even more. It's awesome.
Yeah, same.
I mean, SoCal, we're outside quite often. It is a little chilly. It's like in the high 50s over here, guys.
Wow.
It's a tough life.
Man, I feel for you.
Well, I mean, you guys are like best friends. You've known each other for a long time. You have this cool story with Delight Ministries. But I'd love to just, tell us your story. Like, how'd you come to faith? Like, how'd you get into college ministry? How'd you guys meet? Give us some of the backstory. And I'll let you guys pick who goes first, since you're going to point at each other and do that.
Perfect. All right, I can kick us off. So I'm from North Carolina. I currently live in North Carolina as well. My dad's actually a pastor, so grew up in the church. Anytime the church doors were open, we were there, kind of no choice, no option. And I feel like there are those pastors' kids who resent that, and I low-key loved it. Like, I loved just getting to be there. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so I think I watched my siblings maybe resist it more, and I just decided to go all in and be the church kid and love it. And we moved around a lot. My dad switched churches quite a bit, and so it was just really cool. I found that the church was always my welcoming place. No matter where we ended up living, those are the people that welcomed me with open arms. So I had a really good experience with it. No interest in doing ministry whatsoever. Loved God, but was do not want to have the life that my dad had. And I actually wanted
Tell
to
him what you wanted to be. Okay,
I was getting there. I actually wanted to be a country singer. No lie. I wrote songs, did the whole thing. And
That's awesome.
One of the best places to go to school, if you kind of had an interest there, was Belmont University, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And that was my dream school. It's where I wanted to go. I toured it when I was a sophomore in college, and then was locked in. That's where I wanted to be. And I ended up at Belmont, and my freshman year orientation, I met Kenz, and that's kind of where our story started. So I'll let you give yours, Kenz.
Yeah, for sure. So fun. Actually, our first introduction was in the cafeteria during orientation, when you're just being so weird and awkward and insecure. And her mom overheard my mom call me Mackenzie, and then they had us awkwardly meet. So that's what happened.
The mom.
We owe it all to the moms.
Yes.
Yes, and calling us and naming us Mackenzie. But yeah, so I grew up in Southern California, actually, Los Angeles area, and just went to Belmont because one of my friends was going to Belmont, and I was like, I'm gonna follow you. But grew up not super in the church. My family would say they were Christians, but didn't often go. And I came to know the Lord when a friend invited me to church in high school. And big believer in just extending that invite everywhere you go, because it totally changed my life. And when we got to college, I mean, having come to know the Lord in high school, I was like, okay, we're going to go to a Christian school, and it's going to be the best. We're going to meet all these Christian friends, and then it's going to be amazing. And it just wasn't that. It was hard. My roommates were partying, and it felt like everybody was doing everything else but investing in their faith, and never just really found my place that first year of college. It was hard, and when you're not actively pursuing that, it's easy to just put it on the back burner. So we ended up actually Mac and I basically ghosted each other all freshman year, and then we went out to dinner at the end, and it was just one of those life-giving conversations with friends where I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be friends with her. I want to keep this up. I know she can change my life. And I think Mac said this felt the same way. And so we talk about like pursuing each other as friends. I think there was just so much intentionality in that initial meeting. And when we came back to school our sophomore year, we were like, we should start a Bible study and make it a lot easier for people to find Christian girlfriends in college, and have a safe place to go to. So that's the start of Delight, which I know we're talking more about today.
So it sounds like because the moms made the introduction, you guys decided, no way, we're just not going to be friends. But then, God had different plans and brought you guys back together.
It's very true. It's very true. It's actually funny. I thought Ken's joined a sorority, so I thought like, oh, she's gonna have sorority friends. She won't want to be friends with me, and so that's kind of why I didn't keep trying to be her friend. But it was really cool because people kept telling me, they're like, by the end of my freshman year, they're like, you need to hang out with Mackenzie. Which at the time she was more Mackenzie. They're like, you need to hang out with Mackenzie. Like, I think y'all would be great friends. And then here we are. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So.
That is awesome. So and you guys started this kind of crazy successful like ministry, college ministry for women, called Delight. Like, so it started with you two, and then what did you guys do? Like, tell us the kind of origin story of the ministry and how it grew there at your guys' first university.
Yeah, for sure. It was so cool. Such a God thing. I mean, we were like, let's start a girls' Bible study, just pretty much like anybody would start a girls' Bible study. And I did feel like there was a significant need just with our stories of that lack of community. And there was nothing else on campus for just women. Like, we were going to the co-ed places, but we were probably more so going for some cute boys and some good times, and not for the right reasons. And so it was so awesome to be able to have the space. And, when you're just with women, you share different stuff than you would when there's guys in the room. And so we saw that to be really true that first year. We were like, oh my gosh, like there's so much breakthrough, so much more vulnerability and conversation. And like, because of that, friendships were so much deeper. And it grew a ton. Like, there was just so many girls showing up every single week. And that first year we were just like looked around and we were like, holy cow, like this is so needed here. I could imagine it's so needed at other universities. And so we basically started the journey of launching Delight at other college campuses. It started with just friends of ours from life that went to other universities. We basically forced them to start it there. They might have slightly wanted to, but we made it happen. And then, it was probably, it took some time, I would say, through the next like 2 years, our junior and senior year of college, we grew from just our chapter at Belmont to probably 20 or so other chapters. And then we had a funny moment come senior year when we were like, do we do this for the rest of our life or not?
But when you started it at Belmont, just like at the very beginning, did you just like, hey, we're in the dorms, let's invite other girls? Did you go put it in? Like, how did you kind of get the word out? And like, what made you kind of like, as you got the word out, it sounds like it went well and it grew and it really met a bunch of needs and built this community. What made you think like, oh, let me go do it at another school or have a friend do it at another school?
Yeah. It's so funny when I think back to our sophomore year of college when all this was kind of happening. I think that, I don't know if you've ever just hung around college kids, but there's just like this like fervor. You're just so excited and you think you can do anything. And it's almost like a blind naiveness that's really good at sometimes because you haven't kind of like had this reality of expectations of what often happens in the world. And so I think we were just so excited about this community because we didn't have it our freshman year that we told every single person we could come across, like in the cafeteria, in the dorm rooms, all the different things, like anybody we came across would be like, hey, we're having this Bible study, you should totally come. And I think like after one or two of them, the conversations that we started having at these Bible studies that we were having were so different than any Bible studies I'd ever been a part of, where you kind of just go around in a circle and like spout out your best Christianese and like try to act like you understand what you're reading. We actually were really raw and vulnerable. And I think this was like, this was 10 years ago, and it was kind of before like vulnerability and Brene Brown was around and all the things. And I just remember us kind of being like, whoa, if something really powerful happens when you get really honest about what you're going through. And your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of college, you're going through some really hard things. And I think it was so powerful to sit in a room and to think you were the only one going through something, and come to find out half the women in the room were walking through that too. And then to get to hear how God was speaking to each and every one of them through those conversations was just the coolest thing ever. And I remember walking away from meetings just feeling so close to the Lord and so close to those girls that I didn't even know 2 weeks before. And I think that then made and encouraged girls to invite their friends. And so like, literally, I remember those first couple of weeks, like every week there'd be like 20 more girls there every single week, just because people were like, oh, you should come with me. Wow. This is really awesome. And so I think that's how it kind of grew on our campus. And then the idea to actually start it on other campuses, again, goes back to that kind of like blind naiveness. We were like, I remember one day we had this lock-in. Kenz and I decided we needed to lock ourselves in a room all day and like dream for Delight, which was literally just like a Bible study on our campus, which is hilarious. But we did this, like we made people bring us meals and things like that because we couldn't leave the room. And I think we mentioned like, wouldn't it be cool to start Delight on other campuses? And we were like, yeah, we don't know how to do that. Never mind. And then about a month later, I'd gone home for the summer just for like a couple of weeks before I was going to come back to Nashville and work that summer. And the same was true of Ken. She was going home for a couple of weeks and we were both going to work in Nashville that summer. And I had just gotten off my plane, and like she calls me, and she had just gotten off her plane ride, and she's like, where are you right now? And I'm like, I'm hanging out with my parents. And she's like, well, get alone. I have to tell you something really important. And I was like, okay. And she just goes, when I was on my plane ride, I was just thinking about Delight. And I feel like God just kind of gave me this vision for what it could look like. Like, I think this can be our full-time job. She's like, I think like we could actually see this start on other college campuses. Like, I think there are so many other college women who need this type of community, and like, we can do it. And then she's like, are you in? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I'm in. Let's do it. And we got back to Nashville 2 weeks later. And seriously, we would meet like every single day at a coffee shop after we'd both get off our jobs that summer, our summer jobs, and just kind of went in on the idea and the dream and began meeting with people, praying, began just dreaming up and envisioning what it could be. And again, we had no clue what we were doing. I mean, I remember just like the first thing we did was try to meet with a guy we went to Belmont with whose dad was a publisher, because we thought that was step one, like write a book for our curriculum. And then, we quickly learned a lot of things along the way and kind of built the building blocks of what Delight is today. But yeah, it was just kind of, I think this vision from the Lord, and then kind of these quick little steps of, okay, let's do it. Let's step into obedience of what this might look like.
Yeah. Kenz, I love how you were like, get alone. I need to tell you something. Like, you couldn't just say it. Like, she had to be alone somewhere.
Yeah.
She didn't want someone to steal the idea.
Yeah, I thought it was some crazy secret mission. Who knows?
So good. I mean, that's pretty amazing though. So you guys are like getting together every day in Nashville, doing your thing. How did you get the next one started? Like, what was the very first, or the second, campus that you were on, and how'd you get it going?
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I mean, it's not that cool of a story maybe, but you can hear
this is the beginning, right? Like
the grassroots. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, but the first thing we did was we put everybody that went to Delight at Belmont in a giant group text. And we said, do you know any friends that would want to start it at their campus? And I think we got like one person out of that at Wake Forest University. And then, so that was like one that we didn't know. And then other than that, like I said earlier, we forced like pretty sure Mac forced a best friend from high school, and then I forced a best friend from high school.
Yeah.
And they came to be.
Yeah.
Well,
But they had to go do it. I guess I was trying to get to like, it had to happen, right? So like, it wasn't you two, somebody else.
So
you had to like inspire them and whatever, like because you guys are like, you started it. So because you started it, like you cared, and you're on campus every day, like doing your thing, and you were also going to school and all that kind of stuff. So there's this kind of like, it was like your baby, and you were passionate about it and doing it, transferring that to the next person at another university. Like that to me sounds like a really big leap, to get to that point.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. And I think we at that time had no skills to know how to do that. And so it was really just getting on the phone with these girls who were like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this, and saying, really sharing the story, I think was the big thing of like, hey, we had this need, and we thought a lot of other girls on our campus had this need as well, and sharing what God did. And then just saying, it was so simple. We think you can do this on your campus too. And we'll kind of share with you everything that worked for us. And then we'll try to support you. And one of the things we did that summer was we did start to create our own curriculum. And I talked about kind of the power of stories. And so that early Delight curriculum was all based around women's stories. So we started calling women from all over the country and just saying, hey, would you share your story of how God has moved in your life? And we kind of like began to pair that with scripture and discussion questions. And those ended up being kind of the conversations that we had in Delight in those early years. It's evolved since then, but just kind of this idea of let's like cut to the chase and get right into the fact that the women in this room are walking through really hard things, and we don't have to hide behind Christian resumes. Like we can actually get real, and we can actually look to scripture together to speak into these things that we're currently walking with and walking through. And it was funny in the early days. I think that was the thing that really drew people to it was a little bit different than maybe a lot of the Bible studies or ministries that they had attended in the past. And that kind of like being really vulnerable and honest. And so, yeah, kind of a combo of the two of like sharing the stories of what God did on our campus and belief that that could happen on their campus. And then along the way, we learned, okay, we got to actually start resourcing people and actually start training people. And so as we kind of kept moving, we were able to develop a lot of those things. And that's probably one of the things Kenz and I are most passionate about today is just, helping women catch a vision for leading on their campus and discipling on their campus.
Yeah, I love that. How did you guys know when you were onto something?
Oh my gosh.
Like you're like, I want to do this thing full time. Maybe we can do, I'm assuming you were working full-time jobs at some point in the early days. And, but at some point were you like, oh, I think we really have it. Like this is going to go.
There was a really cool story. We don't get to share this that much, but you asked how we, like the first few people that got started. Well, eventually we created like a website, all the things. And on the website, you could fill out this form if you wanted to start a Delight chapter, if you happened to hear about it. For the first while, nobody filled out the form. It was just us like trying to get friends to do it. And then I'll never forget our first form.
Yes.
It like popped in our email.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Like you get the first, that's awesome.
Best moment ever.
And it's just crazy cool. It's really a God thing. Her name was Krista Hengish, and she went to Chapman University in Southern California. And her story, we asked her right away, we're like, how did you find out about Delight? Like, this isn't big, like, how'd you come across this? And she was like, it was so funny. I was on Pinterest and I saw like your logo. And at the time our logo was like a Delight and bubble letters on this pink brick wall. Not cute, but whatever.
I think
and
pink's like a theme here, so it's fine.
Yeah, it is. And we stuck with it all these years. But she was like, it was the craziest thing as I looked at this photo a little bit deeper. My initials were carved on the wall of this brick, like the brick on this logo.
Yeah.
And to this day, I mean, if you look back at the photo, her initials are on this brick thing. And what's the craziest thing? And we were just like, what? That's crazy. We were like, this is amazing. You should start a chapter. And anyways, so the craziest thing though is Krista, I would say for the next 3-6 months, we probably had 10 to 20 forms come in who were all friends of Krista. She was like the super, like, she was just a college girl, but she just had like a big network and a lot of influence. And then we had 10 or 20 other people who were these like powerhouse leaders and friends of Krista Hengish sign up. And it just started spiraling from there. You know, we got in this like little niche of like awesome, amazing leaders. And I look back today and I just like, I mean, we're still friends with Krista, actually. It's cool. She leads now another women's ministry called Live Salted. And which is just another cool thing of how Delight's building up and sending out like women leaders around the world. But yeah, it just felt like everything popped off really fast and God's hand was on it. Little miraculous stories like that, just like back to back.
Right. Yeah. Right. I love that. And you guys are on what, 200 something campuses now?
Yeah. This semester going to be at, I think, 222. Yeah.
You think 222? I'm sure you know the number. Sure you know the number. All right.
Actually, it does fluctuate. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
But that's incredible. So 10 years, over 200 campuses and growing. I think I saw it somewhere like 15,000 women a semester are participating and being impacted through the ministry. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, it's been a wild ride.
What a ride, right? And now do you guys, is it a full-time thing for you guys? Did that happen?
Yeah. So it's actually crazy. So Delight was our full-time job the day we graduated from college, and it has been ever since. And
very cool.
Wild, crazy, miraculous stories that led to that, to being able to do that. But it's been really cool. And it was honestly such a gift that we got to graduate college and then kind of throw all of our energy into building Delight. And I think that I look back on that now and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful, because we kind of had that, like, I think when we graduated from college, we had about 20 chapters, and it grew very quickly in the couple years after that, which was just a cool thing to watch. And I think, like, you know, I always say Kenz and I have had funny journeys. You know, we kind of were thrust into this ministry, like leadership position, fresh out of college, like in our young 20s, and had to really learn on the fly what it looks like to lead something that you love. Like, I think our hearts were so tied into Delight for the longest time, and have had to walk through some really, really hard seasons of kind of just being corrected in things, really hard seasons of friendship. Leading a ministry with your best friend is the biggest gift. And also, I would say probably the hardest part of everything that we've had to do. And just the ways that God has had to kind of like step in and I don't know, and just like really walk us through hard seasons. It's been really, really cool. We just celebrated 10 years back in August. And I think it'll forever be one of the things I'm the most proud of, is that we're 10 years in and we're still best friends. We're better friends than we've ever been. And so, yeah.
I love that. How did you guys, like, lessons along the journey, like 10 years in, it grew pretty fast. Like, how did you manage like the growth and the scaling and the success? Like, give me some of the things you've learned along the journey about how to do this well.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I was going to say a couple of things is, I think early days we wanted to keep all the control, you know, and like really see everything through and make sure it's done with excellence. And now one of the things I forever love is about just giving people ownership of things. And I think especially in college ministry, I have just seen people take the vision of Delight and own it and like get behind it and love it. And that has been some of our most fruitful seasons of Delight. Like Ken's mentioned the story of Krista Hengish, like she owned it. That Delight became her thing just as much as our thing. Yeah. And that led to this incredible fruitfulness. you know, we have a team of about 20 right now. And the more that I like allow them to own things, the more that I just say, hey, what would you do? You know, if this was, you were making the decision, what would you do? It's just really cool how that unleashes like new seasons of growth. And so I think in leadership, sometimes we have this scarcity mindset. We got to hold on to things really tightly and really closely. And I think just the longer that I've been in ministry, the more that I'm like, I just want to be like a releaser of sometimes like the decision-making or the authority that's been given to me. How can I pass that off to other people and see just the fruitfulness of that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kenz,
oh yeah, we could
you?
probably, these questions are always so hard for me, Frank, because there's just like so much stuff and so many categories of like, you know, staff development, our partnership, finances, fundraising, like all of the above. But I mean, speaking to probably the most important part of it all, which has been our partnership, you know, we've learned a lot, especially early on when we didn't maybe know each other as well, or maybe we were super young and developing personally, or just young in the ministry and making a lot of big decisions. It was so important for us to always believe the best in each other, because there were times when we didn't. There were times where I was like made up a story in my head that Mac low-key wanted to be like a famous pastor or something like that and didn't want to do Delight, and like some really silly, irrational thing. And then I sat in every conversation with her with this narrative that wasn't true about her and not believing the best in her. And it is so hard to talk through stuff when you have a false narrative about somebody, or when you're believing just not the best. And so, yeah, we've had to learn how to like choose that and to believe that like over and over again. And sometimes that means like having hard conversations like really quickly. Sometimes it's not even a conversation. Sometimes it's just pure ownership of like, stop talking about that person to other people. Stop like continuing the lie and just like bring it to the Lord and have him rewrite that. So yeah, I think that's been really huge for us. The second I start to like have some weird or negative mindset about Mac, I'm like, oh, wait, no, I'm going to believe the best in her the whole way through. So yeah.
I love that. I mean, working together, I mean, I get to do Tithely with one of my best friends, and you gotta work hard at keeping that relationship tight. And but then the cool part about it is you have someone to lean on like through it all, right?
Totally.
Like, could you imagine doing it completely on your own? Like, it's so much more fun to do it with like someone that you love and want to do it with, and you get to lean on each other to do it. I mean, I like oftentimes talk about that being like a massive part of the success of Tithely. And I mean, I can feel that from you guys, right? Like doing it together is powerful.
Yeah. We tell college girls all the time, we're like, anytime they bring us a dream or an idea they have, we're like, go find someone to do it with you. It's so much better when you do it with somebody else. And I think we have a very like individualistic culture today where it's like, you know, you kind of do your own thing, stay in your own lane, like all this stuff. And I think that there's something really beautiful about merging your life with somebody else, like beyond just marriage. Like I feel like Kenz and I have this almost type of covenant relationship too, where we're like, we're going to stick with each other through thick and thin, through different contexts of ministry. And it is like just been one of the biggest blessings of my life that has taught me so much and has shaped and molded me into the person that I am today. So yeah.
You know, I have another life lesson that actually is really pivotal for us. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
No, this one's for real. Okay. Anytime that things have gotten too serious or too heavy or too much, which is like every 6 months, or actually sometimes it's monthly. So this sometimes can be small, but we do something really hilarious or weird or fun. Like, for example, I don't know if this was like pre-show conversation, but it might've been at the beginning, but like there was one point where we decided, I don't know, early on, I think it was just, everything was too serious. And we had this like speaking moment, and I was like, Mac, we are going to put on wigs and we're going to start this thing off looking so weird. We're going to do this weird dance. It's going to be so freaking funny. We just need this. And so that's what we did. And ever since, every time we get on a stage, we do a dance with wigs and look like fools. And we laugh so hard. And then like, there's just other random times where we'll like insert something weird into a staff meeting, or Mac and I will just decide to do some random spontaneous trip. And just like getting to like laugh and lighten the load has been like actually really effective for us.
That's so good. So good. What, like, from a business perspective, like 2 questions, or probably more, but how did you get it to like fund the ministry? Like where do you raise money?
Yeah.
Do you have outside backers? Like, how did you turn it into a full, like, I'm sort of asking the question to inspire others. Like, here's how you can do something you're passionate about, start a ministry, start something serving the church, but get it to be like your full-time gig and do what you love.
Yeah. So it started out, we did have kind of a initial major donor who made a gift so that we could start it fresh out of college, which was amazing and awesome.
Yeah.
But we knew that that was not going to last forever. And so we were like, okay, we have about a year to really figure out how do we fund this ministry moving forward. Yep. And so I would say we kind of have 2 major buckets. Before
you go, let me interrupt real quick. You had to ask this person. So like, or company or whoever it was, but like you had to have the sort of thought like, hey, let's go see if, we can raise some money. It's like seed capital to start a business, like, how'd you even get the idea or the courage to take that first step? Like, hey, we want to do this. We need some money. Let me go figure it out.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of funny because so this was like a big God moment for us. And this is, I think, one of the moments where we were like, okay, God, I think you're making this happen. We had a conversation our senior year of college and we were like, okay, we think we want to do this beyond college. Like, it's not just a hobby. So then we're like, all right, because we're both kind of like hustlers and grinders. Like, we're like, we'll do whatever, And so we kind of start trying to take it in our own power. I'm like, Kenz is like, I'm going to stay on my parents' bill. I'm going to go to grad school so that I can like kind of like do what I want on the side. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to move home, save up some money. I'll like come back. We're trying to figure out all this stuff, how we're going to make it happen. And this is a common theme, but we went on a retreat over Christmas break, our senior year, again, just us locked in a room talking about Delight. So we did that. And it was hilarious because we got in this huge fight. I think it was like our first fight. We got this huge fight. It was over something really silly. And, but we had this call with this couple who had kind of supported some of our early things, just really small things. Like they helped us kind of purchase our first curriculums. And, we were just like, we'd love to update you on things that are happening in Delight. And so we start updating them. We're on this call. And then we didn't ask. They literally just said, we believe in it. We want to fund it. Go come up with your dream budget for your first year. We'll make it happen. So that was crazy because we didn't have to get up the courage the first year, but we had to get up the courage plenty more times in year 2. I'll never forget us on this trip. We were going to lunch with this guy and we were literally hyping each other up so much going into it. It was the most awkward lunch of our life. We'll never forget it. I think I'm still scarred to this day from it, but those are moments that like are really good. I think and that's why I think you want somebody to do it with you, because you are going to have to be courageous and you are going to have to be a visionary who can share your vision. And I think one of the biggest things of being a visionary is like, do you believe in your vision? Because if you believe in it, when you sit down and tell somebody about it, it's so much easier. If you're not confident in what you're asking people for and what you think the impact of what they're giving will do, then like that will come across. And so I think just going into any sorts of things where you're doing something scary, it's like, go back to the vision and let that be the thing that kind of channels that hard conversation or that hard ask. So, so that was that. But then how we actually fund Delight is actually through the sales of our curriculum. So every girl that comes to Delight, our books, they cost $15. And so every time someone purchases a book, it gets to go right back into the ministry for us to be able to start new chapters and things like that. And then just like a sorority, we have merchandise and sweatshirts, t-shirts, all those things. We try to make them really cute, really fun. And that between books and merchandise covers about 60% of our annual budget. And then the other 40% comes from donations, where a lot of it's now been kind of working with alumni and parents, and then some major gifts where we kind of make up the rest.
Yeah. I just went to your guys' website because you're like merch and all the things. It's awesome. Great job.
Yeah.
Man, this is so cool. So what's been the biggest in 10 years, and maybe you can each pick one, like what's been like the biggest challenge to like growth or scale, or I don't know, from a real, like, I know this is ministry and this is about God, and God is in all of this. And, that goes without saying with this kind of stuff. But then you guys are the ones doing the work, right? And you're kind of facing all the challenges. What's been one of the biggest challenges you guys have gone through in terms of like really growing the ministry?
Yeah, for sure. There's a few that come to mind. The first, and it's still relevant right now, is just retention of our chapters. It felt like at first it was like, oh, wow, we can really keep track of like 50 awesome chapters, really like help them phase out leaders and build leaders. Like we could be really hands-on with this. And as it's grown, it's been harder to retain chapters. I mean, as you guys could imagine, it's colleges. So, and it's all student led. So our leaders are graduating and then they're transferring, and then they just change their mind in general about life. And so our leaders change really often. So building, deciding on all of that, choosing our leaders has been, and training our leaders and keeping our leaders has been incredibly challenging, especially through the pandemic. It got really hard. Our leaders were not, it's exciting when you have a whole room full of women and you get to stand up in front of them and lead them. Like, a lot of people love to do that and want to sign up for that. But then when you're now like on Zoom and like, I don't know.
Not the same. It's just not
hard.
the same.
Yeah. Through that, we lost a lot of chapters and a lot of passionate leaders. And it's taken a second to rebuild that and retain our chapters. I think we don't have as much of a problem growing, and there's so much interest all the time to like start new campuses and do the thing. We have so many marketing resources these days. And so for a while, for a few semesters, it was like we were starting 30 chapters and then we are losing 20 chapters.
Right.
And we were like, how do we do this? So yeah, we've had to really go backwards for the last couple of years and be like, okay, let's focus on what it looks like to create really great leaders. And then how are these leaders going to pass the baton and get another really great leader right behind them? And how do we make this really solid? So yeah, there's been a lot of technical stuff there. So
yeah, that makes sense. It's like a revolving door at every campus, at least every 4 years, maybe more. Right. So
totally.
That makes sense. Yeah. What about like greatest success? Like what's one of the things you shared a lot of stuff. So I'm kind of asking again to give you an opportunity to like, is there something where you're like, man, this is amazing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. Greatest success. I would say
like, go ahead, Matt. You go. Really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
go
ahead. No. Okay. You are absolutely going. Go.
Okay. I was going to say, I think our greatest success is, which I feel like this is such like a ministry answer, like leader answer, but I just think the fact that we're 10 years in and still love it, still believe in it, and still have like a calling on our lives to be in ministry, to me just feels like such a win. Because I remember even friends that I had in college who had really big callings upon their life who today are choosing not even to walk with Jesus. And so I think for me, just the fact that like I can say I am, just as in love with God today as I was 10 years ago, if not even more, and even more confident in my calling. And even though it's continuously taking on different forms and it's taken different pivots and things like that. I think just the fact that I like still have this passion for young women to know Jesus and to have community that can walk with them in that. And I know that like Kenz is right there with me and that like we're still in it together is, to me, just feels like the biggest win ever of, hey, this wasn't like a, quick start and then fizzled out really quickly. Like we've hit the 10-year mark. Like we did it. Like we lasted.
That's
and
big.
so
10 years is a long time.
Yeah, that feels big. And I think I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome. Kenz, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I knew.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I'm impressed always by the buy-in in Delight. Like, I know it's hard for a lot of organizations and a lot of ministries to create buy-in. Like, sure, you can like create a great product or a great course or opportunity, but are people going to like do it again or buy it again or whatever? And I can tell you like with 100% confidence, like Delight girls are like bought in.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, we have this like program where you have to raise your own salary and move somewhere, not to like a cool place like Asia or Africa. You have to move to like Ohio and like Iowa and like
Tyler's got a bunch of really awesome people that live in Ohio and work.
My husband's from Ohio, and I always was like, "Who lives in Ohio? Lamest place ever."
Ohio State fans. That's who lives there.
Yeah, true.
But we have hundreds of people sign up that want to do this program, want to raise their salary. And then we have 1,600 leaders all across the country that spend their every day in college doing Delight. They have it in their bio, like Delight Service Coordinator, like in their Instagram bio. And then like, for example, we also have a conference where they have to fly to this like really remote camp in North Carolina and pay a couple $100 to get there, and almost 1,000 girls will come to that, like no problem. So I'm really impressed with the buy-in. Like, the girls love it. And I think it's because we've hit on a need. It's really speaks to the culture and today, and we're always changing to make sure that's true. Like the second we're outdated or, it's just like, whatever, forget about it. Like we're in this like little trendy space where we're like keeping up with the trends. We're providing the needs, we're speaking to the culture, and women are coming to know the Lord through it, which is just like so powerful. So yeah.
I love it. You guys are awesome. I could keep going, but I want to be sensitive to time. I'm sure we all have stuff to do, but you guys rock. I want to do a follow-up episode someday and talk about like marketing and branding, but we'll do that another time because I have a whole bunch of things I can ask you guys around that topic. But a couple like rapid fire questions. You guys both answer all these questions. It's 3 questions. First one, who's a leader that you like look up to, like a leader or a mentor, somebody you really look up to, really has had an impact on your life over the years?
Yes. Okay. I would say mine is a couple of the church that when I lived in Nashville, I just recently, a couple years ago, moved to North Carolina, but really have just like taken such belief in my ministry and my life is Dave and Sydney Clayton. They're the pastors at Ethos Church in Nashville, Tennessee. And Dave has no social media, so you would never know who he is. But it's so crazy to me how I live in Charlotte now, and I have met maybe 4 or 5 people whose lives have also been changed by Dave Clayton and Sydney Clayton. And it wasn't because of, a video they saw or anything. It was because of like a real life conversation that they had with them. And so just really look up to them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll give a really cheesy answer, but it's true. My dad is an entrepreneur, a businessman, and also really generous and gives back so much. And so he's been a huge like cheerleader in everything we've built. And
I love that. We'll make sure Dad gets this episode.
Yeah, it's good.
What's a book that you think everybody should read?
Oh, book I think everybody should read. I would say I love the book God Has a Name by John Mark Comer. One of my favorite books.
Love it.
Okay.
Our big reader over here.
I'm not. Frank, I'm the worst reader ever. And I know good leaders.
What about a book you should listen to?
She only reads war books, which is weird. Like,
that's fine.
And like, no, I read like war books and like love stories.
Can I tell Frank, can I tell a quick story? It's going to be really quick.
Please.
One time, Kenz and I, we were at the lake together, and she's reading the book Lone Survivor because she likes war books. And she's been reading it for a week and a half, maybe. And she looks at me. We're laying out on like the lounge chairs. And she looks at me and she goes, Mac, I think only one of them survives. I just lose it because I've never read Lone Survivor. But like, duh, Lone Survivor. It was just the funniest thing. Yeah, but she was shook that only one of the guys was going to survive.
Yeah, no, it's bad, Frank. I don't sit down for like 1 second. I'm like the girl who just like doesn't ever leave time to read a book. But
it's totally fine. There's no shame.
Say, I'll throw out to all the girls listening to this podcast. If you haven't checked out a For the Girl Bible study, these are our own Bible studies, but they're really, really great. And we'll get you in the Word of God.
Well done. Well done. All right. How about a podcast? What about a podcast that you're listening to right now?
Yes. Okay. I don't know what the podcast is called.
I'm sorry to stress you out. You don't have to answer.
No, Frank, we have this thing where I answer first so she has some time to think about stuff. So mine would be, there's this guy, his name's Jamie Winship, and I found him. I don't even remember how. It was on a podcast, and then I dug deep into all the podcasts he's ever been on. And this guy's story is unreal. It's so crazy. He has such a cool, just like way that he walks with Jesus. And so just look up Jamie Winship and listen to any podcast he's ever been on. Beautiful.
All right, Ken.
I have my answer. Mine's I really love Craig Groeschel's leadership podcast. Yeah. I listen to that a lot. Helps our team a lot. Helps us lead really well a lot. Yeah. So
it's true about that one.
I've heard that one quite a few times. That guy is a legend.
Really?
And has a great podcast.
Yeah, Max over there giving all these unique answers. I'm like, everybody.
That's very not unique.
Did you just Google top Christian podcast and give the answer?
I think she did.
No,
Basic.
I did not.
No, just kidding.
I'm kidding.
Okay, thank you.
You guys are great. Like I said, I would love to do a follow-up episode. Where can people go to check out Delight Ministries?
You can go to delightministries.com or on Instagram at Delight Ministries.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Yes,
thanks so much, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Modern Church Leader. Bye-bye.